build you a battery box like the cool kids. Don't you want to be a cool kid?
Alright, so today I'm going to do a quick video about my battery box setup and also my battery box in combination with my fish finder setup. As you can see, I've got the Raymarine Dragon Fly. This is the Dragon Fly 4, and what I wanted to do with this box, and I've shown how I actually have this connected to the boat in another video, my console video, so I'm going to roll that in at the end of this, and then you can see how this attaches onto the boat. But long story short, basically what I did with this battery box is I made this a completely modular unit that I can just disconnect and reconnect anytime I want to. You know, if I don't want to go out and fish with my fish finder, it's just a simple matter, like less than 30 seconds I can take this thing on and off. Again, I'm going to refer back to the console video on that. What I wanted to do is actually show how I built this. And, you know, the first thing you're going to notice here, this is a cheap little Pelican box, or a cheap little Pelican imitator box, I should say. I believe this actually started out, the name brand on this I think is Apache, and this is a Harbor Freight, I think it's like $12.99. It is built similarly to a Pelican box, but because I was going to be drilling a bunch of holes into it, I just decided to go with the cheapest box possible. Is this as waterproof as a Pelican? No. Is it as tough as a Pelican? No. If you want a Pelican, go spend the money on a Pelican. But you can see this box does have these gaskets here. Relatively speaking, it's pretty waterproof. And it's got the foam padding and the foam inserts on it. So building this box, first of all, I started off, that was like $12.99, I think, for the price of just the Apache case alone. I got the smallest sized Apache case. I think it's like their 1200, something like that. I'll put a link to that in the description. And then what I did was I just drilled out, I got some marine panel connectors that you can get from Amazon. I'll link to the ones that I got. And then I drilled out, I believe it's a 1 inch or 3/4 inch, and just used one of the spade style bits to drill down in there. And as you can see, you know, after I got done with that, I went ahead and put a round of silicone caulking on. But I've got an extra battery charger right there in case I need it for the phone. I've got a voltage meter that allows me to see what the remaining charge is on my battery. And then I also plugged in the 12-volt connector. So what that allowed me to do by having these four on this side of the box, and one thing I will say, if you decide to do this, just make sure that you kind of play around with the layout before you start drilling, because this is a pretty tight space on this side of the box. And so, you know, once you start drilling in there, you know, you limit your options. So make sure and just kind of like position these and lay them out before you get started. You'll also notice I've got two stainless steel bolts that I've drilled through right here as well. These bolts are actually charging ports, and so basically with, you know, a standard you know, battery charger, like a battery tender type that uses alligator clips, I can just hook this up on the outside of the box, charge the battery without having to do anything on the inside. Now, you can see that, you know, to mount everything, I first of all used the Yakattack transducer arm. I believe it's called the Switchblade, and this just deploys, as you can see, just straight out this way when I'm on the boat. And so this comes down and you know, hangs off the sides of the gunnels. You know, what I did with this on the Switchblade mount is I actually did, if you can see right here on this joint, I shortened this quite a bit. I found that with the way that this battery box sets up and the way that I have it mounted on my console, I needed to have this segment of arm be shorter because it was actually causing a little bit more draft on the boat, because this section of the articulated arm was actually kind of, you know, this rounded section was in the water, and what you want is this this kind of, you know, planed thin arm right here is to be the section that's in the water. That way you get less drag. So I did shorten the Switchblade, but you can see then I've just got it mounted on top right here with a just a basic screw right here through the main part of the lock and load base there for the switchblade arm. And then I've mounted a ram ball right here to put the Dragonfly on as well. So let's get to the interior. Well, actually, let's not get to the interior of the box yet. I will show you one other thing that I thought was really nice in terms of being able to run everything internally. And you know, the excess cabling that you have with these, like this is a really long run to run from your transducer up to your actual unit. And so what I did is I wanted to store all that excess cabling inside the box, but I still wanted to keep it relatively waterproof. As you can see right here, hopefully you can see that, this is one of the Hobie through-hole wiring kits. So I made 2 holes there. I drilled one into this side to run from the transducer arm up and into the box. And then I've got a second one that's coming out from the from that transducer arm up into the transducer unit itself. You can see the excess cabling, so move this over here for the power cord. I've actually just got tied up with some of the Night Eyes cabling that's rubber coated. This is great stuff, by the way. It keeps everything really nice and secure, and because it has a wire inside it, it allows it to kind of be formed and shaped so you can kind of tuck it into space. So I've got this kind of wrapped around the switchblade arm right here, and then I've got my excess power cabling for the transducer wrapped underneath that section of the arm, and then of course it goes into the 12-volt cigarette plug right there. So you know, I think it's pretty neat. On the outside you've got a little bit of this cable that kind of sticks off to the side, but the rest of this is just you know, very, very easy to transport. It's just a simple on-off with the ram arm here and the little the ram base that attaches the connector right there. It allows you to reposition the transducer screen like pretty quickly. You can adjust it for different angles if you need to block out the sun. So I found that to be pretty handy. Let me show you what I've got going on the inside of this as well. When I open this up, you can tell I've kind of used this foam back here as a way to kind of keep all my cabling protected. But as you can see, like right there, I've got you know, I've got my screw holes in here for mounting both these little strap arms right there, those little connectors, and then also mounting the ram ball, and then mounting the switchblade mount right there. And by having this foam on there, again, it just kind of keeps those screws from sitting down in here and wearing away at any of the wiring in the box. So let's get into what I did for the wiring a little bit here. And you can see one of the things I did, I just got these butt splice connectors right here, and used those to connect onto these individual modules that I've you know, screwed into the box. And then I just made things easy on myself. I went and got one of these wiring connectors, and I think these are like $3 or $4. You can get them at a hardware store, but that really simplified the wiring on the inside. That way I didn't have to use a ton of different like butt splices and try to put like 2 or 3 different things together. Using these little kind of spade connectors on the end, and then just being able to screw them down was really handy. This right here, the majority of this cabling is what you see. That is the excess transducer cabling that I'm able to keep in the box and out of the way. And then finally, you'll notice right here, I've got a 10 amp hour Noqua. I have no idea how the hell to pronounce that, but look, there's a website right there that's upside down, so you can go there if you're interested in it. I went with a lithium ion 10 amp battery. One thing I do notice about the Dragonfly is I do think it burns battery a little bit faster than the old Lawrence unit that I had. So I went ahead and went with a 10 amp hour, and I can probably get about 3 or 4 trips out of this. You know, unless I'm charging something else, or you know, I'm running something like a night fishing light or something like that. plenty of juice in this battery. And being lithium ion, I feel like it's going to be a little more reliable than the lead acid batteries. I've gone through about 3 lead acid batteries over the course of 4 years. They're heavy. I know these are much more expensive than the lead acid batteries, but so far I'm really liking the performance quite a bit. And I feel like that, in the long run, the investment in the lithium ion is going to be worth it. But you can see what I did again here. These, this is pretty straightforward wiring. You really only have 2 connections to worry about, your positive and your negative. What I did on the cabling here running from the Noqua out is I went ahead and on the ends I ran into this main power bar here, and I then connected that power bar out to those 2 stainless steel bolts on the front that I showed you earlier. The thing I like about that is with the Noqua system and the way that they have this set up, you have to twist and kind of screw in every time you want to charge, which would mean that every time I'm wanting to charge this back up after using it, I have to unscrew this connector, open the box up, have this something again that I have to, when I unhook it, I have to screw everything back in. By having those bolts on the outside of it, I can literally close this box and really never have to open it. I just hook my connectors up out here on the outside right there to charge it, and I'm good to go. And then finally on the bottom of the box, as you saw in the console build, I do have these 2 galvanized or zinc plated, I can't remember, steel mending braces. You'd use this if you're putting together, trying to mend together like a 2x4 or maybe like a section of fence. And just put those on the bottom. Make sure you do not get stainless steel. The stainless steel are not magnetic enough if you're planning on using the magnetic system. But again, I'm going to roll in some of that footage at this point and show you how this connects onto my Jackson Kilroy with the custom made console and magnetic mounting system I've got built there. And watch this. And I promise you, that is not going anywhere. This makes this system completely modular. I can take this on and off in less than 30 seconds. So that is my battery box and fish finder setup. It's 1 unit. It goes on and off in about 30 seconds. It is an absolute joy to use. I know, some people are going to have different, mounting solutions they're going to have to come up with their boat. I think all told in this, because I had some of these parts that were kind of sitting around, I think this instrument cluster right here and these adapter clusters, I think those were a total of about $12-13 from Amazon. Again, I'll link those in the description. The Noqua battery, of course, was expensive. It's a lithium ion battery, so you got to expect that. I think that's about $125-130. Bought that from OKC Kayaks in Oklahoma City. And then the Apache box itself was about $12. So really you can put this together, this whole battery system and box system, really pretty cheaply. I mean, if you're just going to be looking at getting a lead acid battery, which by the way, an 8 amp hour sealed lead acid battery, pretty typical for kayak use, that will fit in this box as well. That's what I originally had mounted in this, and then swapped out and went with a lithium ion after the lead acid battery died on me. But that did fit in this box as well. Obviously made it a little bit heavier, but you can use the sealed lead acid instead. But if you just want to look at the box itself, the parts that I have, you're looking at approximately $30. So really inexpensive. And I would definitely recommend looking at this as an option as opposed to the pre-made boxes, battery boxes you see out there that tend to run in the $70 to $100 range. So definitely saved some money here, and I feel like it worked just as well for my setup. Thanks a lot, appreciate it. If you have any questions or any comments, definitely feel free to use the contact information in the description, or feel free to leave a comment for me. Thanks.